we are now going out to Kenya, and we are going to hear about some pretty unfortunate news out there. What's been going on, Helen?
So, this comes from AP News by Evelyn Musambi. And if I did not pronounce your name correctly, I apologize. I'm doing the best that I can. But a Kenyan LGBTQ plus activist body was found in a metal box, and they do have a person that has been arrested under this. So the name of the activist was Edwin Chaloba. Again, if I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. Um, and this gentleman was an LGBTQ activist within Kenya, and he was also a fashion designer and a person that spoke against um, the rhetoric that was happening within Kenya when it comes to queer people living in that country. Now, I know we're talking about this, but I can't help but bring this back to Ratsberger and the church, because why is there anti-LGBTQ plus prejudice in Africa? Missionaries.
Yeah.
Because before white missionaries decided to go into that country, there was no really anti-LGBTQ ideas or rhetoric that was happening within those tribal communities. But the white people came in, and I am not saying missionaries did not contribute to some really good things like healthcare, education, infrastructure, all those things to help those developing nations get what they need. And I am not going to disparage that in any way, but it comes with a price that you have to follow their God. When you have to do that, comes the prejudice, comes these ideas that, it's one man, one woman, make babies so you can become part of the church. It and on it goes. And it's a very Western Christian idea. And our old friend Pope Benedict kind of contribute to a lot of the problems we see in Africa with because he did not like queer people, thought we were subhuman. And as a resident queer person on today's podcast, I take a little bit offense to that. And also as well, um, because of these missionaries going into these countries, the fact that Chaloba died, just saying, like, can you please treat us like human beings? Can you please treat us so we have equal rights, that we can love who we love and go to work and not be treated less than? And because of that, he was killed. And I am I am hoping there'll be a full transparent investigation. Like, they're not calling this a hate crime. It's still under investigation, but I just my spidey senses are tingling, man. And I just can't help but feel that this was a hate crime just because of the rhetoric and ideas that are going on in Africa right now regarding the queer community. And that's where that hatred is flowing. And I can't help but tie it to here, because we're seeing this here. And us queer people have been feeling a lot of anxiety lately, just because there's this rhetoric and slandering of us as people and who we actually are. So this is just an example of something that is prevalent also to us here. And no matter where, if you are an activist around the world, no matter who you are, whether you're here, you're in Africa, you're in India, there is a risk when you do those things and you speak out just for wanting to love who you love and live the life that you want to live. And this person is an example of what hatred can do.
Yeah.
So anyway, you want to take this, Richard? How are
Yeah.
you feeling about this?
Well,
I have a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the people around the world. I have to say, people like Chiloba, uh, they amaze me. They are people that I find extraordinary, because I've worked as a skeptic and I've given talks about skeptics. I've gone to conferences and see people go, oh, homeopathy is terrible. But I don't think they're risking their lives when they complain about these things. And so people who are in parts of the world where they are genuinely putting their lives on the line, putting everything out there to try and change things, I just find those people to be some of the most heroic and extraordinary people that there are. And there's another guy called Denis Nizioka, I think that's how you pronounce his surname, and he ran for president. He runs an LGBTQ magazine in Kenya. He's done TV and radio and podcast. He pushes for same-sex marriage, and he's also at risk, and he's amazing, absolutely amazing. And they just make me, to quote Shakespeare, hold my manhood cheap whenever I hear these guys and think, yeah, I'm making a difference. These are the real deal. And it's also a shame that they have to. And I don't know the best way. I think the best way usually is to support people, because sometimes you run the risk of going, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to show them what's what. I'm going to tell them what things really should be like. And you can risk going, hey, white person with the truth here. Hey, when they know the truth, they just need support. If they lean on me and say, Rich, can you come and do a talk? Can you help us in some way? I'm there for them. But yeah, they're amazing. And it's such a shame that Edwin Chiloba has died, and I'll be interested to know what kind of investigations they run, because I too am a little skeptical as to how impartial it's going to be. And I'm sure people like Nizioka is now a bit more cautious, which is a shame. Actually, knowing him, he's probably just doubled what he's doing. He's even louder. He's going to do a third magazine. He's going to go on more newspapers, and he's going to say, "This man is my husband. Do you not like it? Oh dear," and things like that. Yeah, extraordinary people who are risking themselves in ways I can't fathom. I'm too much of a physical coward, frankly.
Well, I think both of you brought up some truly, truly incredible points. And again, I want to point out that currently at the time of us recording this, we don't have any more information. We do not have a motive. Like Helen had mentioned at the beginning, there is somebody that has been arrested in connection, but that's pretty much all of the information that we have. And this is one of those moments, I think, that we have a really good opportunity to highlight both secular humanism as well as our skepticism. And we say, look, this is a horrible act. Whether or not this was specifically a homophobic action, it doesn't matter. This person was killed, and that's wrong. And we can talk about, which is totally true, so freaking often LGBTQ individuals are found dead and the investigation is garbage. And that is more likely to be the case for those individuals than it is a lot of other groups out there. And we need to make sure that that is no longer the case. It does not matter who you are. You absolutely deserve that investigation, and it deserves to be transparent. It deserves to be full. And we just can't continue to allow these individuals to just be thrown on the side of the freaking road, which is exactly what happened with Edwin. And that's just horrible. We don't know yet. Again, we don't know what the motive is, and we shouldn't jump to any conclusions, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't speak out strongly against this. You know, again, whether or not it was an anti-LGBTQ motive doesn't even matter. This was a wonderful person that exactly like Richard said is literally on the front lines, literally on the front lines. And it's because of people like him that I will stay in my comfy little chair and say every damn thing that I can to support those people. Because Helen is right. This is, you know, if for anybody out there that isn't already upset about this, that isn't already up in arms about this with us, yeah, like Helen said, this stuff is in the US. We're seeing this type of rhetoric that allows for more of these heinous acts to happen against other humans. And that's disgusting. We shouldn't live in a world like that. We shouldn't let this go to the wayside. And we should join the international community in demanding that this is a transparent and full investigation. Whatever it is, we absolutely have to have justice on this one. So hopefully, as updates come through, if we can, we can give some updates and stuff. But yeah, definitely there's just a lot of terrible crap to this, I think. And I think both of you already have said some really good points. Helen, anything else you got?
I wanted to kind of piggyback off what you were saying about this is still a human being,
Yeah.
and I wish that him being gay was not part of this conversation, because simple fact, he was murdered, regardless of who he was. And I think that he was a very, very, very brave soul, and being on the front line, especially in a very difficult circumstance. I think that he was just someone that I'm going to admire.
Yeah.
And I just found out about him just reading this article this week. But it's someone that I call a hero. And the fact that we are still having to divide people into race or sexualities or genders or any of this stuff, um, just shows how far we need to go. When it's because what we should be saying is someone was murdered and there needs to be an investigation and they need justice. That's what it comes down to. And if we're not doing that, and we're defining him because the fact that he was like, well, I'm not going to put up with this bullshit that I'm dealing with in my country. I'm going to be on the front lines. And that puts, because in the article mentions that he had death threats and everything else against him as an activist, because that's what happens to people in these societies. And it scares me because we're seeing this here, and I'm an activist, and it's one of those things that, like, you have in the back of your brain that someone's going to have this perception of you when you're just a normal person that's just living their life.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that this highlights about how much work we have to do, at home and around the world. And if you're watching this in another country where you're seeing this going on, I'm not saying you have to become an activist and go out there, but put your money where your mouth is. Whatever you can do if you want to see something happen, that's all. Or just speaking out against injustice is enough, and just supporting your queer friend, is enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Richard?
Speaking out is very, very important part of it, and part of skepticism, a part of activism, which is just saying to your friends, this makes me upset, or going on a podcast or something, say, I really don't like this. Well, that's kind of okay, but I've started to realize recently that there's a lot more to be done by doing than saying. Don't be Ratzinger, and don't just say things and move things about. Confront it, get in there. And I understand that I can confront these things, and firstly, I live in a country where we don't have draconian laws against LGBTQ plus people, and secondly, no one's going to kill me for it, I don't think. But they used to. Only 30 years or 40 years ago, you'd go to jail if you were gay in this country, and terrible things happened. And the reason it changed is because some very, very, very brave people stood up and went, hang on, no, enough. And so things started to change, and attitudes started to change. And now we are where we are, which is quite a long way down a road that we haven't got to the end of yet. And I hope one day we will. But yeah, it's activism is a good thing to get involved with. Get involved with the ACA or something like that. Get involved with somebody that will help you express yourself more than just in the comment box. Here I am recruiting for you. There you go. I'm recruiting for everybody. So whatever you're passionate about, whatever you think, whatever injustice you see, however you want to support, get in there, because it actually makes you feel quite good as well. If you want to do it for selfish reasons, you feel good doing these things. So
And I think those are both great points. on this to kind of wrap up. And the only other thing I'll say is that I a lot of times we kind of have this negative view of social media, and for good reasons, I think, right? A lot of it is a dumpster fire.
It's a
Let's be
double-edged
honest.
sword. It's a
Um,
double-edged sword, baby.
exactly, because it's moments like this where having a large voice of people bringing attention to
Mm.
something deeply important, where social media can really do good. When there are millions of people out there letting people know that we're not going to forget about Edwin Chaloba, we're not just going to let this go without a follow-up. That matters because people pay attention to that. So again, just to echo everything that Helen and Richard said, there are a lot of different ways that, if you are passionate and you do want to, highlight stories like this, there are a lot of different freaking ways to do that. And so, again, that's what we do here. And hopefully, if we can, we'll give updates, and we're not going to let this go, I think. So
I'm
I
definitely gonna be paying attention because
yeah.
I'm not letting
Yeah.
it go.
Yeah, I'm very glad we talked about this one today. So